Let's watch a Piers Morgan panel with lefty commentator Briahna Joy Gray, as well as liberal journalist Wajahat Ali, as they discuss this recent healthcare shooting, Luigi Mangione, the left and the right's position on it. And Piers does the exact thing I said he would, so we have to start there and get in the I told you so.
She was already in hot water for celebrating the death of this executive. To then say that her honest, genuine response to what happened was one of joy. And it was unambiguous. She may have recanted it when she realized what she'd said, but she said it in the moment and she meant it. She felt joyful that an executive, a husband, a father of 2 children, had been executed in the streets of Manhattan. What would you say about that?
Yeah, so 3 things. Number 1, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for the panel or anyone else. I'm against vigilante violence. I think it's bad for a democratic society when people, especially in a country that has more guns than individuals, take matters in their own hand and kill unarmed individuals. I think personally that's wrong. Secondly, it's not just a left thing, because Taylor does not represent the left as one person. I'm against the murder of Brian Thompson. I thought it was a brutal, targeted murder. And I, for one, did not celebrate the murder, just like I did not celebrate a violent insurrection.
It could be my pettiness, for sure, but we have to start with the I told you so. I mean, Taylor Lorenz made a comment, and despite instantly correcting herself, every left-leaning person on Piers will have to answer for this for weeks now. I mean, this is what I said was going to happen, and now Piers is literally doing it in real time, because this is how the media does the left. Any left-winger says something, the entire left has to answer for it, and it's despicable, and how dare they. Meanwhile, no right-winger ever has to answer for their words anytime. Not even the person who said it will get asked about it. And if any repercussions are had, they just become 10 times more popular in their right-wing base, like Gina Carano after she simped for Nazis, right? But no, Taylor was wrong in semantics and optics, but she was right in the vibe she was speaking to. There is no sadness for a CEO who has denied others' claims. They're sick people claims, and for a company that uses AI to deny claims at an ungodly rate. And I'm sorry that, to me, the more interesting conversation is why this shooting was met with such a lack of sympathy from American citizens, both on the left and the right. Joy from some, even though I don't agree with that. I think this speaks to a larger issue that stretches across the spectrum politically and more into class, where it's like, why would we not focus on that and instead focus on like, oh, well, let's cry for this billionaire who profited off of death and denying healthcare.
Both sides of the establishment political aisle are desperate to make this a conversation about something other than the fact that we have perhaps the most perverse healthcare system, or insurance system is a more accurate way to put it, compared to every other similarly wealthy country in the world. The reason you're seeing this outrage and sometimes kind of performative thirsting for the shooter is exactly because 68,000 people every year in the United States of America die because people like Brian Thompson, who run companies like United Healthcare, deny insurance claims that could have saved the lives of their loved ones. And while there were a lot of words spent talking about the fear, the real fear of the people on the subway who had encountered Jordan Neely, it's important to note that Jordan Neely hadn't physically engaged with anybody on the subway.
Well, I'm going to come to Jordan.
Again, it's not a left versus right thing. It's a top versus bottom. And for those of us who have an actual disdain for the establishment, not just the establishment as far as its Democrats and the way that it crushes those who are under it, this is symbolic of us saying enough is enough. We won't just let you kill us anymore. We are human too. We're not just profit, which is why the left is bolstering this up, right? Despite Luigi being like a center-right valedictorian kind of, in college and all of this, because it's about the class battle. And as typical, the right is trying to make this a left extreme thing, and the establishment left is trying to make this a killing bad thing. But I refuse to focus on anything other than the true issue, right? That our insurance system has failed us, where millions of claims are denied each year. Tens of thousands of people are dying in the streets from disease in the wealthiest country in the world. Diabetics are choosing to go without insulin because they can't afford it. Mental health is just being forgotten, neglected because it's too expensive for most people. Out-of-pocket costs and debts are crippling your financial situation. It's time that we stop letting this billionaire class that Republicans love so much screw us in the name of profit, profiting off of our desperation, our struggle, our sickness, things that we need, right? It's just this, it sucks that this conversation had to be sparked after Trump was elected and appointed 13 billionaires to the government, pretty much solidifying the establishment reign for the next 4 years.
Luigi is just a vessel through which people are expressing their deep frustrations with the American healthcare system. So the question is, if you don't want murders like this to be happening, assassinations to be happening like this in the street, and I'm someone who does not believe in the death penalty and don't condone these kinds of vigilante instances of violence in either case. But if you want to get to the root of why people are so deeply unhappy, you have to, it resonates so deeply with people that this has happened, you have to get to the root of why there is this deep well of tragedy, despair, and outrage in the United States of America. And that has to do with what Brian Thompson has chosen to do with his life, and what companies like United Healthcare have chosen to do to the American people.
Here's another phrase I really want to coin along with my last one, you know, the misinformation machine. And this one is, Republicans care about the symptoms, not the sickness. And I think it's something that rings true in most conversations. They care about October 7th, but not the conditions that caused it. They care about crime, but not the conditions that cause it. And it's the same thing here, where they're focusing on the symptom, not the sickness, right? Half of US adults say it's difficult for them to afford healthcare costs. I think it's like a quarter of them know a family member that does as well. 1 in 4 adults say that they've skipped care because it was too expensive. 1 in 5 have skipped filling prescriptions because they were too expensive. Even half of insured adults, outside of receiving care, fear just affording their monthly costs of being insured. 40% of Americans have medical debt, and the overwhelming majority of Americans fear the cost of unexpected medical bills and don't have the money saved to pay for them would they happen. Meanwhile, the insurance industry is making record profits, doubling their yearly profits, pocketing over $100 billion. And if you want to know a statistic that's infuriating, cancer patients spend around $16 billion a year on out-of-pocket costs, like total in America. If the industry pulled together and paid that off, it still would have made like $72 billion last year. Hell, Brian Thompson, the CEO that was just killed, his company alone made $33 billion. He could have paid that off himself and still have netted $17 billion in profit. Meanwhile, people's fathers, grandparents, children are dying of disease, dying because they were neglected or rejected healthcare that could have saved their life. And this is exactly why people are infuriated across the spectrum, because it's a class thing. The poor people are tired of the rich having their boots on our neck, and we're tired of having profit being prioritized to necessity in our healthcare system and housing and things just across the board.